Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on our YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around to talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff. We got a great crew in here today. Sitting beside me is Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Beside him is Chris Carr. We got joining you in the live chat, Ray Ora's back there, running the show today, Jonathan Voico, and of course, we got Taylor in here as well. And it is great to have you guys here joining us today. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it down into two parts. First half of the show, we're going to talk about some predetermined topics. Then in the last part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. We'll announce at the end of the main topics that we're opening up the super chats, and that will be your chance to fire in your topics, and we'll address those at the end of the show. Also, hey, just quick reminder for you guys, if you need your daily fix of the John Campea Show, but you can't be in front of a YouTube video, good news. There's an audio-only version of our show that we simply call the John Campea Show podcast. Just go into your favorite podcasting app, search for it, and subscribe to it so it'll be there when you need it. All right, guys. With that all down, let's dive right into it. And we got a couple things to talk about here off the top. And the first thing off the top is this. You guys might know, if you watch our show for any period of time, that I love Yellowstone.
No.
I think it is the best show going on TV right now. Unfortunately, yesterday was so busy, I have not watched the newest episode of Yellowstone or Tulsa King, which I got to get caught up on. Then they came out with a prequel spinoff. What was it called? 1883? 1883.
Which was awesome.
Was really good. Was really, really good. And now they've got another prequel spinoff that happens after that year called 1923. Only this one is starring Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. And they have now dropped the main trailer. Like, they gave a little teaser for it, but I think last week they dropped a little teaser. But they put out the full trailer for this thing. And let me tell you what. Even if I was not a Yellowstone viewer, take Yellowstone out of it, this trailer is freaking remarkable. If you've never seen a single episode of Yellowstone, I think you could watch this trailer and be totally taken with it. Like, I think anybody can watch this trailer without having watched a single frame of Yellowstone, and I think they would be enraptured with it. The characters are incredible. I do love the fact, as a Yellowstone fan, that we actually get to see the Yellowstone Ranch, which is pretty cool in there. Ford looks remarkable. Helen Mirren sounds awesome. I mean, she sounds like definitely Beth's great-great-grandmother or something, because there's something there. I thought this looked fantastic. I loved it. Rob, you had a chance to watch the trailer for 1923. What did you think of it?
Dude, I'm with you. Like, you know, I was excited to see, because I really liked 1883. 1883 showed me something I really hadn't seen, that gun battle on the plains, which in broad daylight, where there's no cover. I thought that was amazing. This trailer, it looked like a movie. Shot like a movie. It has movie star actors. It had the stakes that seemed, it had multiple locations. It goes from the Yellowstone Ranch to some Great Gatsby party to World War I mean, I'm watching this going, this is a movie.
By the way, I would print this image. And hang it on my wall.
Yeah, I mean,
Logan already has and photoshopped his face in there.
On the Harrison Ford.
I mean, this looks to be totally blurring the lines between theatrical feature. Maybe there is no line between the quality of streaming shows when you're working at the highest level. Now, John, if you told me it's a 2-season mini series or a series.
I think they said it was going to be 2 seasons. Yeah.
I hope this, between Andor and this, I kind of like that. I like the idea of 2 full seasons as opposed to like 6 episodes. Getting like 12 episodes for 2 seasons. That's pretty good. I like that. And I thought this, I mean, Helen Mirren looks just fierce.
Yeah.
I mean, men kill quickly with a bullet or a noose. I kill much slower. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, you go, girl. I mean, man. And Harrison Ford, I mean, there's no sleeping here. I mean, Harrison Ford he's a Dutton. I mean, he comes across as a Dutton. Again, that's only a thing if you watch Yellowstone, but
I love that. Anyway, Chris, you had a chance to watch this trailer. What did you make of it?
Well, we watched it so many times. So many times.
For those of you who don't know, Chris's husband is rather fond of Helen Mirren.
Logan's in love with Helen Mirren. Her book is on our piano, just displayed there for everyone to see. He's obsessed with her. But this looks really, really great. Like you guys were saying, this looks like a film. It looks very, very great. It has such scope. It's so cinematic and gorgeous looking. Helen Mirren definitely seems like no one to be trifled with in this. And it really got my attention, because going into this, I'm not somebody who's watched Yellowstone. My husband's very into the Western genre. I sometimes will watch those things, but it's not my first go-to thing. But I really want to check this out. This looks badass.
And I'm hoping this might be a gateway drug into more people checking out Yellowstone, because you got to be watching Yellowstone. Again, I think it's the best thing on TV.
Well, I think they're doing something really smart. I mean, 1883, and it was 1923?
Yep.
Oh, so, and they say Yellowstone, but you don't have to. I mean, it's like House of the Dragon. If you've never watched Game of Thrones, it works.
Yep, you can watch House of the Dragon on its own.
1883 is what led me to finally watch Yellowstone.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I did. And I was like, this is great, and so that's why it got me into it. And I think this is going to be people's gateway drug as well.
I hope so.
What a cool, and what if you didn't know anything about Yellowstone and you jump into in 1923 and realize you get 1883 and 5 seasons of Yellowstone? That's great.
Yeah. It's a treasure of a find, guys. Question is for you. Did you guys have a chance to see this first full trailer for 1923, the Yellowstone spinoff with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren? If so, what did you think? Are you a viewer of Yellowstone? Does this trailer make you want to check out that show? You really should. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. If you guys have a question you'd like us to address and you'd like to hear your voice on our show, simply call our hotline number anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. Call on in, leave your message there, and maybe you'll hear it on our show. So we've got a question here asking about the place of Guardians of the Galaxy in the MCU.
Hey everyone, this is Marcus from Rochester. I just got done watching the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special last weekend, and I'm wondering, what phase does this belong to? It was my understanding that Wakanda Forever would end phase 4 and Ant-Man would start phase 5, so what gives with this? Love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for calling that in. And look, I have not known. I talked about the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, I think on Friday I talked about it, but for those of you who missed Friday's show, I was not excited for this. I have basically been ignoring it for the last 6 months. Whenever we talk about upcoming Marvel stuff, I've never mentioned the holiday special. I mean, the trailer I thought was really clever and cute, and I bought into the whole way that they're going for the whole Hallmark Christmas movie kind of feel with Guardians of the Galaxy, and I thought that was lovely. I did. I thought the trailer was lovely. But I still wasn't excited for this. Excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but this is the thing. I didn't even like She-Hulk, but I would stay up to midnight to watch a new episode of She-Hulk. I did not stay up to watch this when it dropped Thursday night at midnight. Like, even Ann was like, hey, isn't the holiday special on Saturday? I said, I'll watch it in the morning. Whatever. It's going to be a throwaway little thing. No one's going to care. Fuck me. It supplanted Rudolph and Frosty as my favorite Christmas special. It did everything a great Christmas special should be. And I laughed and I got emotional at the end. I wasn't sobbing like a baby, but I could feel tears in my eyes at the end. It is a beautiful, fantastic, wonderful Christmas special that I'm going to watch every year now for the rest of my life. I absolutely loved it. But you do raise a great question. What phase does this belong to? But even more importantly, where in the MCU does this holiday special belong? As far as phases, Rob, you were pointing out something that you read about Kevin Feige specifying where it ends up as far as phases go.
He said, Kevin Feige said it was an epilogue to phase 4. But this year in the MCU, I believe, is 2024. I think. This takes place at the same time that Hawkeye does. It takes place that same
at
Christmas
time, yeah.
Because we know that from the time of the blip. So this would have the blip we starting out with WandaVision. WandaVision took place 3 weeks after the blip, and everything we've seen now has taken place in that year. So I believe that this would take place at the same time as Hawkeye does.
Yeah, because I think we talked about this a while ago after Endgame, is that once they did the 5-year jump, we figured they would actually slow down time in the MCU until we actually caught back up to it, and then MCU would be in real time with us. Again, it feels like that's what they're doing.
It also takes place at the same time as the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. So it's interesting that we've got that's the culmination of where we're at in the MCU, I believe.
But I didn't get a chance because I did the show solo on Friday. What did you think about the holiday special?
Dude, I loved it. I mean, at first, I watched your reaction video because I was curious what you thought. And I felt like you, when I first started watching, I'm like,
the first couple of minutes
it opened with that animated sequence, and I'm like,
I thought the animated sequence was interesting.
It was interesting, and watching it, and it was. I'm watching this, and I'm like, but it was so interesting because it crept up on me, because I had certain expectations, and then as you're watching, then it just started. For me, I'm like, I'm totally in when they're in Hollywood in the, let's call it the alternative lifestyle bar, that they didn't. I'm sure I would love to know how James Gunn got away with that, because I'm like, without saying anything, it was just like, here's a bar in Hollywood, and it was real. I was laughing. They have the speeded up shot where they're just doing shots, and I was laughing. And then, like you said, the guy, when Drax goes, hey, why don't you come out and dance with us? Drax is like dancing. What does he say?
When one of the best lines I think ever in the MCU, when Drax says to him, guy comes up to Drax, like, come dance with us, and Drax says, like, there's loud music playing, so Drax speaking very loud, dancing is for people who are pathetic. And I'm like, I just about died.
My new favorite thing is Mantis and Drax. Like, if they needed to do, like, I want to see a road picture with the Collector and the Grandmaster and Howard the Duck. Now I've changed. I want them to make a Drax Mantis movie where they go on some feature-length adventure. Now, because they were awesome together.
They were great. And it was wonderful seeing, because Mantis has played less than a side note, really, in the MCU up until this, because she's really the star. It's her and Drax, but she's kind of really the star. And I loved her in this. Palm Clementif, is that?
Yeah.
She was wonderful in this. But it does raise a great question about, okay, this is a Hallmark Christmas kind of tone. Where does it actually fit? Forget phases. Where does it actually fit in the MCU? Because I'm sorry, Drax's cousin was killed by a GoBot?
That was the greatest thing ever.
Saying GoBots are actually canon in the MCU? And I don't think they are.
According to James Gunn's Twitter.
I know.
There's all these think pieces on it.
I think you got to take anything the head of DC's film says about Marvel at this point. But I mean, where does it fit? Because there are two very key important things for the MCU that happens in this special. Take away the beauty of it and the charm of it and the emotion of it. There's two very key factoids that come out of this special. Number one is that the Guardians of the Galaxy now own nowhere. So that's one. Two, that Mantis is actually, and this made sense, is actually Peter's half-sister. So I think so where does it fit in? I think it's going to be one of those asterisks projects. Like, when you're looking at timeline and structure of the MCU and the canon of the MCU, I think the holiday special comes in there, and there's going to be a couple of asterisks on it saying there are some things that are relevant to the MCU and some things that maybe are not. Like, so I don't know, because does Kevin Bacon being in this exclude him from being able to play a character in the MCU now? Maybe not. They could say, well, that one, I mean, I don't know. Chris, you saw it. First of all, what did you think about the holiday special?
Freaking loved it.
And where do you see it fitting into the
Loved
MCU?
everything about it. I know from a Radio Times article, too, for the Guardians, this is after they've parted ways with Thor,
right,
prior to Volume 3. I love everything about this. I'm glad that we dealt with some greater MCU issues, right? Like, we know that they own nowhere now. We know that Mantis is his sister, which was one of those things, too, of, are we ever going to say that? We had that little glimpse of someone going, oh, that's probably Mantis's mom, and that means, oh, my God. And in the comics, that's canon. So that's really nice to have that happen. And this also allowed us to introduce characters as well as some concepts, like the nowhere thing, without us having to bog down Volume 3. So I think this was super smart to do.
Can we talk about Cosmo?
Oh, my gosh, Cosmo.
Oh, my God. Because, okay, look, true story. When everybody
True story.
remember, we talked about this a long time ago. Back in the AMC days, when we had Kevin Feige, James Gunn, and Chris Pratt come into the studio to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, one of the very first things I asked them was, because just remember, this is before Guardians came out. I said, guys, my favorite character in Guardians of the Galaxy is Cosmo. Are you going to have Cosmo? And just Kevin Feige was like, we can't really say anything right now. Of course, Cosmo made a brief little appearance in there, but to actually have Cosmo is so great.
The Cosmo voice is perfect.
It's so good.
Especially in the post-credit when they put the Russian accent on it.
Oh,
I
she's
love that.
perfect.
And Groot looked amazing and stuff like that. Anyway, sorry, Chris, we interrupted you.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to continue having like Rocket own Bucky's arm, but you know, those are some things within the greater MCU that I'm like, I think some things were maybe one-off gags. I would love if it's not. I would love if every now and then Rocket just pulls out Bucky's arm and is like, and plays around with it. But I do have questions about how Nebula got it. I think there's a few things that are red herrings in it and a few things that are going to be canon. And it's those bigger concepts like Nowhere, like Mantis, that sort of thing.
Oh, I think we're going to see there's a reason why Bucky's arm was in this.
Yeah.
I absolutely, I don't know what that is, but I think it's going to be an
You think
ongoing
it's going to be
thread.
referenced at some point that Bucky's arm is,
yes.
is missing?
You guys were talking about getting emotional in this too. And I got weirdly, I laughed and then was like, this is such a thoughtful gift, and got weirdly emotional about Nebula and Rocket's connection now. I was like, this is the nicest thing she could do for him.
What about the dioramas that like Groot gave everybody?
That was awesome.
That's where Anne started crying.
that he
Anne
made
was
in
like,
real time?
Oh my God.
And I love Sean Gunn's diorama, which was duplicating, the guy's whole.
I had the biggest smile on my face because it was such a 1980s Christmas cartoon thing when Yondu's in there. Ah, I hate Christmas. I'm like, this is so beautiful.
So good.
And
And
the
how-
ending, how about
How?
the-
Oh man,
when they
was
go
that?
back, when after Peter says, I don't think that he knows how that story ended, and they go back, and Yondu opens up the thing, and it's this little. I'm getting emotional now just talking about it. It's
so
the little,
good.
little figure.
Also, Swole Groot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Swole
Swole
Groot
Groot's
was
great.
great. I love, and then the little fourth wall breaking when you had Rocket go, oh well, now we gotta do another special.
Right. I mean, yeah, it was just delightful. And
This is charming
45
and
minutes. It
45
was only
minutes.
45 minutes.
And we talked about this with Werewolf by Night, but with this one too now, please do more of these one-off specials. They are
I'm
so
loving
good.
them.
I
I'm
think it's
loving
the
them.
way to give us quality and quantity without sacrificing anything, really. You can introduce so many characters this way. It's great.
Plus, I gotta say, when they did the final illumination of the Christmas lights in
Oh,
Nowhere,
it's gorgeous.
I'm like, that was a set. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe someone's gonna say, no, Rob, it looked like it was a live action set. And I felt a sense of kind of wonder, like
Yeah.
that Christmas wonder.
But to go on what Chris was just saying too, Phase 4, I mean, it's well established. Phase 4 was hit and miss, right?
Yeah.
The least quality of all the phases, and it had some great highs, but it also had some lows, very hit and miss. The most consistently good thing I think they've done that you can say has been these specials. They did 2 of them. They both knocked them out of the park. And now I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what they do moving forward. Guys, the question is for you. What did you think, number one, of the holiday special? I mean, maybe you think we're over gushing, but I'm not kidding. I think it's my favorite Christmas special of all time. Did you like it, hate it, didn't care? Maybe you didn't watch it. Where do you think it fits in the MCU as a whole? How seriously should we take it as canon? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right, guys. Before we get into our main topics here today, we're going to take a second and thank one of the sponsors of this video, one of our original sponsors here at the John Campea Show, the good folks at Stamps.com. We want to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Stamps.com. Guys, it happens every holiday season. No matter how prepared we think we are for the season, it always turns out we're nowhere near as prepared as we thought we were, especially with our shipping. And right about now, seasonal excitement, or dread as the case may be, is really starting to settle in, especially for small businesses. Slaying through traffic to the post office, inboxes more like a blizzard than a winter wonderland, rushing to send cards and gifts to your loyal clients. The good news is it's not too late to get your holiday mailing and shipping under control with Stamps.com. Sign up now and you'll be printing your own postage in minutes. Because Stamps.com is your one-stop shop for all of your shipping and mailing needs. Get access to the United States Postal Service and UPS services that you need to run your business right from your computer. Up to 86% off. So this holiday season, trade late nights for silent nights and get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code code CAMPEA for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter the code CAMPEA. And thank you to our friends at Stamps.com for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to move into our main topics here today. And how do we select our main topics on the John Campea Show? Well, that's easy. You guys come up with our main topics. See, whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you guys feel we need to cover as a main topic on the show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's absolutely free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. And even though I didn't ask her to do this, Chris, would you like to read our first question today?
Yay! I love to read. Oh my gosh, it's so much. LB, greetings from Sydney, Australia, John and crew. Been watching nonstop since movie blog days. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, slayed the box office this weekend with roughly $15 million on only 696 screens, with roughly $15 million, over the 5-day weekend, earning $4 million more than Devotion, which had roughly 2,500 more screens, and $5 million less than Strange World, which had around 3,500 more screens. Do you think this is a massive achievement for Netflix and shows when you have a movie that has great reviews, a great cast, and an interesting premise, people will go out of their way to see it? Hopefully Netflix follows suit and releases more of their movies on the big screen in the future. Thanks, John and crew, for the work you do. Wow, I haven't read in a minute. That was rough.
That was a long one, too. Thank you, LB. And listen, yeah, Glass Onion, you guys saw my quick other review to it. It's wonderful. I'm still not completely sure. You guys know how much I love Knives Out. I'm still not completely sure which one I like more. Like, that's how much I liked Glass Onion. There's a few things that it did even better than Knives Out. A few things Knives Out did better than Glass Onion. But overall, this was a wonderful, fun movie to watch. But the big interesting thing that's really hanging over Glass Onion, and really what makes Glass Onion so significant, is the fact that this was really Netflix's first little toe in the water to test the concept of what if we actually put these movies out in theaters? Like, not on 6 screens in New York and Los Angeles, but a significant number of screens, 600 screens. You know, maybe close to 700 screens. What if we actually did that? Could that work for us? Could that do good stuff for us? All right. Now, you heard the numbers. They're saying that over the Thanksgiving Day weekend, Variety is kind of guesstimating here that the project in the movie probably made about $15 million, which is good. That's really good, especially when you consider just how few screens it actually played on. Now, we're going to jump over into my chicken scratch classroom here for a second, because the $15 million thing is good, but what we're really going to look at here is what I'm going to call per screen average. I did the wrong letter here. Let me try this again.
Just making it upside down A.
Per screen average, okay? What's the per screen average? So here's some interesting things. Of course, we had what's out there. We had Strange World, which, you know, the only person in here who saw it was Taylor, and he didn't like it very much.
What?
Wait, you said it was boring.
Well, it just didn't live up to the expectations of a Disney movie. It just felt like, I don't want to say DreamWorks, but it didn't feel like up to the, I know, Shrek, but it didn't live up to the standards of what I was expecting from a Disney
This
movie.
Pixar film was a DreamWorks film.
Right. He specifically used the word boring when he did that. But
a little boring.
let's look at Strange World for a second. Strange World, when you look at the number of screens it had, which was 4,100 screens, okay? How much money did Strange World make per screen? The average is about $2,800. Is about how much Strange World made. Okay, now you had another big release, Devotion, right, with Jonathan Majors. That was on 3,400 screens. It made roughly about $1,700 per screen for the screens that I was on. If we look at another movie I absolutely love, The Menu. That movie, now granted, The Menu's in its second weekend, but still, The Menu made about roughly around $1,600 per screen. Okay. Glass Onion. It made Are you ready for this? $13,500 per screen.
Woo.
That was Glass Onion's per screen average. Even if you look at Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which was the #1 film worldwide again, obviously, but even this weekend, it made about $1,000 or $10,000, I should say, $10,000 per screen. And that's the biggest movie in the world. Glass Onion made $13,500 per screen. I am telling you what is happening right now in the offices of Netflix. They are having strategy meetings now because this changes things. This is exactly the type of information that the folks at Netflix were looking to see that they could garner, that they put it out in a limited number of screens for a limited period of time. They dip their toe in the water to say, would people show any interest in this if we did this? That's what this whole experiment was about, was Netflix finding out, can we gauge if there's actually interest in us doing this? And when you look at these numbers, where Strange World, a Disney animation film, which flopped, but still, $2,800 per screen. Devotion, $1,700 per screen. The Menu, $1,600 per screen. Even if you're looking at something like Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans, which made about $3,400 per screen, that's great. Glass Onion made $13,500 per screen. And with another story coming out that we're going to talk about in a little bit here about Amazon going more theatrical, I am absolutely going to guarantee you in the next couple of months, we're going to hear about the next Netflix motion picture that they are going to do another experiment like this with, but maybe it's going to be a little bit broader, maybe be in for 2 weeks, maybe do 1,000 screens instead of 600. Then they're going to do another one. And I think within the year, we are going to be living in a world where Netflix is making full reel motion pictures, giving them full reel theatrical releases, and then putting them exclusively on Netflix after that. And Rob, I just don't know that if you're in the executive offices of Netflix right now, that you look at this as anything but a resounding success. I don't know. What do you take away from all
I
this?
think you look at it and be pissed. I mean, like what I was saying, and you and I have had this disagreement. They spent $450 million to buy this property. It's a property that grossed $300 million worldwide. Why they didn't treat this like a normal tentpole release that any studio would release, I do not know. By my calculations, they left $60 million on the table.
Wall Street Journal saying they left between $40 and $50 million on the table.
They left on the table. And this isn't even going to get an international release. And so you look at this, and I'm like, look, I totally.
But you remember when they
agree.
bought it for $450 million, they had no intentions of putting it in theaters at all.
I know,
right?
I know, but I agree with what you're saying in that it's always good to be cautious, to not jump in, into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, but I told you I would have given it a full theatrical release too. Like I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm saying I kind of get where Netflix.
But
is coming
but I
from.
think of every single property of anything they could have possibly had, this was almost bulletproof in terms of a big release. And look, they're talking about not only this is in the top 10 releases of all specialty release movies that were released on 900 or less screens. The last time a movie, I think, was The Doors, Oliver Stone's The Doors in the early 90s. So this release was a top 10 release of the last 30 years of all movies released initially on 900 screens or less. This, to me, was a massive failure because, look, they didn't even have to spend more money on marketing. They just could have put it in 3,000 screens, which isn't like 4,000 screens. And how many markets? What I'm really interested in is, of those 600 screens, was it the top 50 markets? How many markets in the United States and North America where this opened? How many markets did they not open it in?
Many.
That they're missing out on. I mean, this, like the Wall Street Journal said, I didn't realize they'd done an article on how much money was left on the table, but I think, like you said, very optimistic. They're like, what have we been doing? Like, why haven't we been releasing? I mean, one of our primary missions in life on this show, John, is to tell people that movies are given added value by good theatrical releases.
Yes.
Now, interestingly, though, the rest of the adult fare that was released this week did not do as well. And I think that's for other reasons. But I mean, this shows theatrical marketing and theatrical releases are important to the value of your product.
I agree, but let me ask you the question again. Whereas we understand that you thought they should have done a much wider thing. But with the results they got, what do you think their analysis of the results they've got is like? What do you think the move is next?
I would think that they got the results they already knew they were going to get. I don't think this was a surprise to anybody anywhere. I think now that that somebody didn't want to lose their job, so they hedged their bets. And I think Ted Sarandos is like, why did you advise me to go easy on this when we just left money on the table? That's all they're going to think about. They're not going to think about how well the movie did because it was obvious it was going to do well. They released it in the perfect weekend or the perfect week. But I think, yes, they're now going to rethink their position. And they're going to think, look, if we're going to spend $200 million or spend $450 million to acquire a franchise property, let's treat that property like a franchise, like the franchise it is. We have to do that. And even if we're going to make a movie like Red Notice, why are we spending $200 million and then not treating it like a $200 million movie? I mean, why don't we listen to David Zaslav over at Warner Brothers, who said, we're not going to spend a ton of money and release things direct to streaming when there's no way, you can't make any money back.
There's no financial model for it.
There's no financial model. It doesn't work.
Chris, you seeing these results? First, like I expected Glass Onion would do well.
Yeah.
I thought it would do well. The type of discrepancy we're seeing between what it made per screen as far as others. And again, if you had doubled the amount of screens, that doesn't necessarily mean Glass Onion would have doubled its box office. But you look at these numbers, that's a staggering difference. That 13,500 per screen average is a staggering number. What do you think Netflix's takeaway from this is? How does this change course for them, if at all?
I mean, I think there's definitely going to be more conversations about we need to be in theaters. You know, Ted Sarandos on their November earnings call had talked about, you know, we are in the business of making movies seen on Netflix for our Netflix subscribers. He does not want to devalue the subscription. But we've seen time and time again, but that doesn't happen. When you have a movie in theaters first and then it goes to streaming, it does even better. So
it increases the value of the streaming. Yeah.
And so that's where I'm wondering where this discrepancy is. I understand that you were a streaming giant. I understand that you were the first one. You were the pioneer of streaming to really get it going. But you got to adapt or die, really, is what works, you know? And so you have to make these changes. And this is a shining example of you have a great property. People want to see it in a theater. I know Taylor's screening was super fun, you were saying, and everyone got really into it.
Mine was great, too.
Right? Like, you want to be in a theater a lot of times, especially for a whodunit, so everyone gasps at the twist or the big reveal. And I think they're going to really have to rethink how they're showing their films, especially these ones they're putting so much money into. Are we going to see Princess Switch 4 on the big screen? No. But something like this, yeah, we should have these theatrically released.
You know what else, John, is that Netflix, unlike HBO that goes for this more prestige series, Netflix's series, the ones that hit, $18.99 is becoming one of their top shows, you know, for this week. Stranger Things, that would not have happened anywhere else but Netflix. I don't think it would. I don't think HBO would have made it. It would have been so they should concentrate on bolstering their subscribers by making appointment streaming shows. And then they can make, for their marquee titles, they should go ahead and they've got the money to spend, but they should be a little bit more choosy and try and make films that are both spectacle and populist, like this is. So your movies, you can make the money theatrically to pay for what you spent all that money on, and then put them on your streaming show.
Interesting thing came out of IndieWire where they said that, you know, Netflix last year they made 100 films. 100 movies, 100 original Netflix movies, some of them acquired, some of them whatever, but under the category of Netflix original films, over 100. I don't expect we're ever going to see Netflix put out 100 theatrical films, but definitely pick out 7, 8, 9, or 10 every year that are your highest ones. Go for it. And I think that's your takeaway. Guys, question is for you. What do you make of these numbers that we've been getting out of this? Did you see there being that big of a success for Glass Onion? How do you think Netflix is going to proceed? Do you think they're going to change direction at all? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2, shall we? Chris, what is our second main topic today?
Our second topic comes from John. Hey, John and company. Over the weekend, I've seen tweets that said Antonio Banderas would happily pass the Zorro torch, or I guess whip, to Tom Holland. Is Antonio high, or has he become senile? Why does Antonio, Tom himself, and Hollywood think Tom Holland is Hollywood's answer to everything? I mean, first Marty McFly, then Indiana Jones, then James Bond, and now Zorro? WTF? Seriously. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this?
All right, thanks a lot for saying that in. Okay, first of all, let's clarify something. Hollywood never said Tom Holland was going to be the next James Bond or the next Marty McFly or that's fans.
He'd be a cute Marty McFly.
You know what? Hey, listen, if they were to do, like if all the stakeholders die and they did decide to do a Back to the Future reboot, which I think you should do someday. Christopher Lloyd was saying that himself. They think they should reboot it at some point, but who would be, I mean,
He's got Michael J. Fox charm.
He is getting older, though. Tom Holland is good. But if they were to remake one today, I'd be all for Tom Holland playing the Marty McFly character. But yeah, let's be clear. Hollywood has not been saying that he's the answer to everything. That's been fans doing that kind of stuff. Let's just be clear on that. All right. Antonio Banderas as Zorro. In the North American market, because he was already a star, right? But not a super well-known North American star. I think that first Zorro movie was the movie that put him on the map. He was already around, but I think that was the movie that put him on the map for a lot of people. Anthony Hopkins is great in that. Catherine Zeta-Jones is fantastic in that. I love Zorro. I even like the sequel. Him saying that he would come back to do another one to pass the torch to Tom Holland, I think is interesting. Now, to get specifically what he said, this comes from the folks over at IndieWire who write the following. Antonio Banderas is returning to his most iconic animated role as the swashbuckling cat Puss in Boots from the Shrek franchise. So, how would he feel about reprising his most famous live-action role? Apparently, he's open to it. Yes, I would do it. Should I do it in an Antonio accent? Yes, I would do it. No, I'm not going to do that. I would consider that possibility. Why not? Banderas said. Yeah, I think today I said something like that to somebody. They asked me about Zorro. If they called me to do Zorro, I would do what Anthony Hopkins did for me, which is to pass the torch. And Banderas already has one actor in mind to replace him, Tom Holland. I did Uncharted with him, and he is so energetic and fun, Banderas says. He's got this spark, too. So, why not? All right, let's be very, very clear about something here. Nobody is saying they're about to do another Zorro movie. Okay, let's just be real clear about that. But what is also true is that for the last couple of years, there have been several whispers and rumors about another Zorro movie coming about. After all, why not? It seems to be all the trend right now in Hollywood to go back to older IP, refresh them, and get them going again with the original stars and stuff like that. And you know what? If they were to do another Zorro film, it's not going to be a $800 million movie, but it could be a $400 million movie. That would be a movie I would go see. See Catherine Zeta-Jones back, Antonio Banderas back again as Zorro, and then getting ready to do what Anthony Hopkins did in the first thing, which is time to retire and time to pass the mantle on. And he comes across Tom Holland. You know what? I'm all for it. And if Antonio Banderas, who worked with Tom Holland and he loves him that much, and let's face it, if you're looking for an actor around that age who can bring that physicality to it, Tom Holland's the guy who can absolutely do all the physical stuff that you need that to happen. Is he a little short? Maybe, but that's okay. So's Tom Cruise, but he's like one of the biggest stars in the world. So I would be all for this if it were to happen. So I like what he's saying here. Anyway, Chris, you heard Antonio Banderas' ideas here. What do you, number one, what would you think about them trying to go back to Zorro? And then what would you think about Tom Holland having the torch passed to him by Antonio Banderas?
I mean, I would love for us to revisit this IP because I'm a big fan of Mask of Zorro. My husband and I were actually talking about this movie last night because we were watching Wednesday with Catherine Zeta-Jones in it and talking about what the movies we like of hers. As far as Tom Holland goes, I just think there's better actors suited for this role personally. And I love that Antonio Banderas wants to pass the torch to him. You know, he's worked with him personally. He really enjoys him. But Don Diego La Vega, Tom Holland's not the name that comes to mind, right? I don't think of an English.
How about Diego Luna?
Right? There's so many other actors that I think of who I think would do a really great job, who still can do that physicality, who can do a lot of other things. I would, forwards ever, backwards never. I don't see us casting Zorro as a white man again. Personally.
Rob, what do you think? Antonio Banderas says he'd like it to be Tom Holland. First, do you think doing another Zorro movie at all is something that could be in the cards sometime? And if so, what do you think about Antonio's pick?
First of all, I love the first Zorro. I thought it was great. And Antonio Banderas is great. I absolutely could see us, what if, I mean, it's a little on the nose for being like Robin, but what if Tom Holland was coming from, I don't know, a British circus troupe, and they were traveling around the land, and they showed up someplace where there was some kind of strife, and the thing is, you can make anyone a master and anyone an apprentice. That relationship, Pai Mei and Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, wax on, wax off, Karate Kid, obviously. Anybody can play that dynamic. And I think if you had an interesting thing with Tom Holland's background, and the thing about Antonio Banderas is he could just say, look, I don't have the ability to do this task. I need help. And so Highlander, it's Sean Connery and Christopher Lambert. I mean, you could do it well. And I think that or what if Zorro creates a team of young Zorros and you have a rainbow coalition of different kinds of people, indigenous people, Spanish people, and Tom Holland's just one of many, a magnificent seven of Zorro's whatever. I mean, you could come up with a really cool story. I don't know what that story would be, but I could totally see something like that.
Where anyone could wear the mask?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
I wouldn't say anyone. No, because Zorro's still Zorro. You don't want to lose that Zorro character, but definitely something like I love team building movies. Everybody has a different discipline, but he's the acrobat, but he just doesn't know how to fight. Show him how to fight.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Tom Holland, maybe as a Zorro. Antonio Banderas seems to kind of like the pick. What would you think about them coming back and trying to do another Zorro movie where they pass the torch, whether it's Tom Holland, Diego Luna, anybody else, or maybe a team of Zorros? I don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. Chris, what is our third main topic today?
Our third topic comes from Steve Calderon. Cinema stocks went up after news broke that Amazon plans to spend $1 billion a year on theatrical film releases. Do you think this will help give a confidence boost for the struggled movie theater industry? Could we see Netflix and Apple follow next?
All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Steve. And yeah, we mentioned this briefly during the Netflix conversation, but this is pretty major. Amazon Studios. Now, Amazon is no stranger to making original movies, but also putting them in full theatrical releases first. Manchester by the Sea got them a ton of Oscar attention.
Love that
The
movie.
Big Sick is one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. I mean, I love The Big Sick. That was really kind of their first one. That was a big theatrical release and everybody adored. Fantastic. Well, Amazon is seeing the writing on the wall about spending money for your streaming stuff, but saying, hey, it'll do better on streaming if we give it a full theatrical release first. And now this is the case. They have announced that they are going to spend $1 billion a year to release 12 to 15 theatrical films a year, which is a huge slate. I got to imagine that's going to become a little bit of a smaller number. At any rate, this comes to us from the folks over at The Hollywood Reporter who wrote the following. Cinema stocks, the movie theaters, got a boost Wednesday after a report from that online retailer, Amazon, plans to spend $1 billion a year on theatrical film releases. Bloomberg, citing unnamed sources, reported that Amazon plans to release 12 to 15 movies in theaters, with the push into the local multiplex getting underway in 2023. An Amazon source tells The Hollywood Reporter that planning is only beginning for the theatrical effort and that the exact number of titles is yet to be finalized. Cinema stocks surged at the news of theatrical movie push by Amazon. Shares of Cinemark rose $1.47 or 12% to $13.74 in late afternoon trading on Wednesday. The world's largest theater chain, AMC Theaters, saw its stock price rise by 40 cents or just over 5% to $7.72. And shares in IMAX rose $1.04 or 7 full percent to $15.48, while stock in Cineplex rose 45 cents or 4.5% to $10.38. So just the news that Amazon is going to start investing real money into theatrically released films, that made the stock of all the movie theaters go up in significant single day jumps, which is impressive. Okay, let's break this down a little bit. At $1 billion, that could be $100 million films a year. Now, $100 million to audiences that are used to talking about comic book movies, that may not sound like that much of a budget. But when you look at movies like Manchester by the Sea, The Big Sick, and things like that, that's a really healthy budget. That's an incredible. I think the Big Six budget was something around $25 to $30 million. So, I mean, you could literally make a whole shit ton of those movies if you wanted to. My guess here is that what they'll do is they'll do 5 to 6 of these great adult comedy drama things like The Big Sick, like Manchester by the Sea, and then probably reserve maybe 3 or 4 of those for like $150 million or more bigger blockbuster kind of stuff that they can then go into and toy around with. And again, this seems to be them following the same philosophy that David Zaslav and Warner Brothers have been talking about. The data makes it clear. When you put, and this is our common song here, when you put a movie in full theatrical release first, it's not about the money you make at the theaters. It's about the fact that when you then bring it on to streaming later, they have exponentially more viewership when you give them full theatrical releases. It's data. It's science. What about the Bears? Anyway, good on you for any of you who know that reference. So it's science. I mean, it just is what it is. And Amazon does not seem to be behind the curve on this, and they're going. Now, I think 12 to 15 releases, that's a bit much. I think that's a little too ambitious. Take that $1 billion, put it in 8 to 10 movies, you could come up with a really interesting slate. Anyway, Rob, it sounds like the common sense revolution is moving forward here amongst these streamers. We just talked about Netflix with their success of their little test. Amazon has already tested up for themselves, investing $1 billion. What do you think of this move?
Well, I think it's an amazing move because if you look at Amazon, they're not an entertainment company. And whatever they're making, the way you watch an Amazon show is through joining Prime. So Amazon, their business is selling everything in the world to people. So making movies is essentially marketing for them. And so they can spend as much money as they want. I mean, think about it. What a genius idea. So you're making Amazon Studios movies. You go to an Amazon movie in the theater, you watch trailers for 3 other Amazon movies. That says the name Amazon 3 times. And then you see the Amazon Studios logo show up of the movie that you've come to see 4 times. Amazon, Amazon, Amazon. They don't even have to, they can call the budgets of these movies marketing because that's what they're doing. They could put this underneath because they're not a movie studio.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got this. So I'm no financial expert, but I would imagine that them making movies as long, John, as they're good. Again,
Well, that's always the key,
hard.
right?
I think the hard thing right now is, to be honest, I think there's a lot of people that know how to make movies, but I don't think there's a lot of people anymore that know how to write great movies and great TV. We're seeing, because all of the stuff that's really, really good is so apparent, and there's so much stuff that isn't. I think that all of these ambitious things are great. Hopefully, we'll see a lot of new talent rise to the top. That's what I see between what Blumhouse and James Wan is doing with Atomic Monster, with Amazon stepping up their slate. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to make a lot of great movies. So I think it's all very exciting. And I think what Amazon's doing is a natural thing. And I think it makes great financial sense for them on a number of different levels. I just hope we get great movies out of it.
Well, yeah, and that's ultimately going to be the final litmus test. Chris, I mean, when we're talking about stuff like this, it just seems like the more things change, the more things stay the same. I mean, we're talking about the new streaming frontier that we're living in, but what's been happening? We've been seeing that the old model of having ad-supported stuff, guess what? It's coming back. Disney Plus is going to be ad-supported, have a tier. Netflix has a tier that's ad-supported. Hulu's has ad-supported. So that's going back to the way it was. And studios are realizing, yeah, it turns out big theatrical releases is actually really good for business. Mm-hmm. When you hear about Amazon doing this, who was really kind of at the forefront of experimenting with things like The Big Sick, do you think this is an overly aggressive move for them? Do you think this is the natural progression, like Rob was saying? How do you see this?
For another company, I think it'd be aggressive. But for someone like Amazon or an Apple, right? They've got money to burn. They really do.
Yeah.
So they can fail big if they want to and be okay, honestly, right? And when you have the amount of money that they do, you can experiment. You can do all of this. I like the model you suggested, right, of mostly focusing on those kind of indie darlings, those festival winners, those award darlings, and then having the blockbusters in there. 17 sounds like a lot, but hey, Bezos is a go big or go home kind of guy. Look at Rings of Power, right? Let's just put a bunch of money into that and see what happens. So I feel like this is going to work out ultimately for the best for them. And it's one of those things too of just, you do have to follow the data. people do this in conversations all the time, right? You can only argue how you feel about something. You can't argue facts. So you can state a fact and you can state how it makes you feel. Now, all the investors or the people over at a Netflix or an Amazon can say they don't like the idea of no longer doing streaming. That's fine. But you can't argue with the fact that having the dual model is what's more profitable.
Rob, and to your point about like, can you make something good? It's great to make these movies. Do you make them good? The one thing that makes me feel really good about this is the fact that this is the studio that has done The Marvelous Ms. Mabel. This is the studio, or Maisel. This is the studio that has done The Boys.
Yeah.
This is the studio that does Invincible. This is the studio that has put out a lot of shows that won a lot of Emmys, and they've also put out some things that aren't so good. But I mean, it makes me feel like this could be really interesting.
Look, what I think needs to happen to this business is, I guess I would call myself a meritocratist, in that we need visionary people that are given a chance. Like if you look at things like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and you look at The Boys, you had creators, strong creative voices, male, female, all different kinds of voices, but they were strong voices that knew what they wanted to make. And I think the business needs that. I think we need to have creative visionaries. Look at Tyler Sheridan on Yellowstone, all the people that are achieving the most success, even Andor. Yeah. Very much a creator-driven, and I love seeing the business come back. No, I'm not saying creative should be given carte blanche and let everybody.
No, it still has to be a creative, a collaborative art.
It's got to be collaborative art, and you've got to know what studio you're working with. But it's really nice to see creators sort of taking back the reins and making good stuff. Let's turn it into a competitive, creative business when it works the best.
I agree, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this announcement from Amazon that they're going to be investing big money for $1 billion a year to produce 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? I think they should be 8 to 10 range, but maybe a little bit more. Motion pictures for theatrical release. Sounds like that's what Netflix might be moving towards too. This could become the new model. How do you feel about it? What are the dangers of it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to take a second here and thank another sponsor of today's video, my favorite shirts that I own, the good folks over at True Classic. We want to thank the sponsor of today's video, True Classic. The holidays are here and there is plenty of t-shirt cheer thanks to our sponsor, True Classic Tees. Guys, we have the perfect gift for your wish list. True Classic Tees are a gift for you, for her, and a great present for any guy in your life. True Classic is on a mission to maximize men's confidence by making them look good. Get 25% off True Classic with my exclusive link, trueclassic.com/Campea, and the discount doesn't stop there. You'll save even more during their site-wide sale. Guys, like most of you, I have always struggled with finding the right shirts for me. Either they're not all that comfortable or they don't fit me all that right. Well, the best thing is that True Classic's team has designed t-shirts to make guys of all sizes feel confident in their clothing. These shirts taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. This is the perfect look that can be achieved by every body type. And they offer other menswear as well, ranging from polos to workout shirts designed to keep your body feeling nice and comfy. So guys, get 25% off at trueclassic.com/Campea. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at trueclassic.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at True Classic for giving me my favorite shirts and for being a sponsor of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So if you go down in the description of the video, right near the top, you'll see links to all of our sponsors for today's show and the promo codes. And thank you again to True Classic. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. Chris, what is our fourth main topic today?
Our fourth topic comes from Gregory. Hey, John. Wondering if you saw that Dwayne Johnson just completely slammed Warner Brothers, or at least the former owners of Warner Brothers, for sidelining Henry Cavill's Superman for the last number of years. I know you agree with him, and I do too. Seriously, what was their thinking process? It seems like the dumbest decision to leave him out. What do you think was behind that?
All right, Gregory, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, look, you guys know how I feel about Man of Steel, the most underrated comic book film of all time. I love that movie. Henry Cavill is my favorite Superman. Love all the guys who played Superman. Henry Cavill, I just think is the best suited to play the role. That's just me. And of course, The Rock's been very vocal about the fact that he has wanted to have Superman back in the DCU for a long time. However, he's actually ramping it up a little bit more now, coming out and straight up calling Warner Brothers' treatment of Henry Cavill's Superman as being, quote unquote, inexcusable is the words he's using. This comes to us from MSN, who write the following. And this is a quote from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And at the end of the day, the studio, being Warner Brothers, was not bringing Henry Cavill back, inexplicably and inexcusably. For us, there's no viable, logical way to build out the DC universe without the most powerful force and the greatest superhero of all time sitting on the sideline. It's impossible to do so. And there was no other Superman, by the way, to bring back. Henry Cavill is our generation's Superman, and in my opinion, the greatest Superman. And I mean that respectfully to all the other actors, especially Christopher Reeve. Going back to the top there, the studio's not bringing him back inexplicably and inexcusably. Now, the first thing we need to point out, I'm glad Gregory did this in his email, is that, remember, Dwayne Johnson is talking about the old Warner Brothers, the Warner Brothers that was under the ownership of AT&T, the Warner Brothers that was not getting the results that they were hoping for from that Superman and had kind of taken Superman in a DC universe.
Well, even before that,
And even-
like the Sujihara.
Yeah,
runs
it's
Warner
all the way
Brothers.
back there and sidelining Superman. Like they didn't just sideline Henry Cavill, they sidelined Superman. And I love what Dwayne Johnson is saying here by when he says in that comment, he said, look, you can't build a DC universe and have the greatest superhero of all time sitting on the sidelines. It's like going into the Super Bowl and having Tom Brady sit on the bench. I mean, what do you think you're trying to accomplish here? Look, I have always said that I understood the old Warner Brothers trepidation a bit. Like the fact of the matter was that Man of Steel, despite the fact that I know it's a masterpiece, there was a lot of people who didn't like that movie. I respect that. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. And I respect that. I disagree completely, but I respect that. And it didn't have the financial return that they were kind of hoping to. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Man of Steel made about as much money or a little bit more money as the first couple of MCU films. Granted, but the MCU had built and developed the comic book genre to being the most dominant genre at the box office. And so by the time Superman came out, it's understandable that Warner Brothers felt it should have done better than it did the box. And again, I understood all of that. I got their understanding and their rationale. But I fundamentally disagreed with their conclusion that, well, the thing to do then is to sideline Superman and to take him out completely. And all the time that AT&T still owned Warner Brothers, Dwayne Johnson and his team kept going to them, let us have Superman back in. And they just kept saying no. No. And it wasn't until Discovery took them over and David Zaslav came in and said, are you kidding? I love Henry Cavill. Yeah, go get him. And it's great that they did. And so I kind of love hearing about this. And I agree with you. Look, I still think even when you disagree with somebody, you got to try to at least understand what their perspective was. And I understood what AT&T Warner Brothers perspective was on that and why they had some trepidation. But I still agree with Dwayne Johnson. It's inexcusable. You cannot try to continue on with your DCU without Superman, and Henry Cavill is our generation Superman. So I love his comments here. Anyway, Chris, you heard what Dwayne Johnson had to say. What do you make of his comments?
I mean, first of all, slammed. I think we can calm down a little bit on that one. He's not in the ring. He's calling some people out.
I know
but
you're calling saying what you did was inexcusable. I don't know if slammed
think
is an inappropriate word.
he's gone a spade because I've said the same thing about, having a DC universe without Superman is just bizarre. And I never understood why. Now, I didn't have the same feelings about, and it has to be Henry Cavill. There's absolutely no way we can move forward. I'm very glad it's still Henry Cavill. I think that's going to be wonderful. But it has been a really odd, glaring issue of, so we're going to have Justice League characters, but we're not going to have Superman? Okay, that seems odd. So I completely understand it, especially now that he is talking about the other people who were in charge. It's a little easier to talk about a regimen when they're no longer in charge.
Yes. And by the way, I had a friend of mine text me this morning. I said, I think it's pretty disrespectful for Dwayne Johnson to talk about the companies that he's working for. I was like, well, not really, because it's not really the company he's working for. This Warner Brothers is a new thing now. The old ownership at Warner Brothers, that's who he was critiquing. He has spoken very positively about the new ownership there and the direction they're letting them go. Anyway, Rob, what's your big takeaway from what Dwayne Johnson was saying here?
Well, I totally agree with him. And I think, look, that Warner Brothers regime, we know from this was all of them. The reason we didn't get another Henry Cavill movie, in my opinion, is that they were covering their ass because the road they went down with Zack Snyder was not the gigantic success they thought it was going to be. It was successful. I mean, Batman v Superman, but they thought they were going to make $1 billion or $1.5 billion.
And to be fair, they should have in their sleep.
Well,
made $1 billion.
I think that they should have too. But I think, again, as much as I appreciate Zack Snyder's take on all this, and you and I both love Man of Steel, it was a take that was decidedly, it went down a very dark path. And it was, what I don't understand is, he could have made his trilogy of Superman movies, and then why not make another? I know it was not part of the thinking. I mean, the executive thinking is always risk averse. I get it. I understand why they didn't want to go down that route. But it wasn't Henry Cavill's fault. And if you had a filmmaker, if somebody just said, "Hey, we'd like to continue. Henry Cavill's a great Superman. Now that we finished this trilogy," and I mean when they finished Justice League, I understand Justice League made no money. They had to sit there and go, well, it didn't make enough. They just didn't want to commit to a Henry Cavill Superman movie, and so it was done. In their mind, it was done. Then you had this weird AT&T takeover, and everybody wanted to get their stock options or whatever the hell, the bonuses they were going to get. So then all that was dead. And it really, it went into a dead end. And so all it really needed was somebody like Dwayne Johnson who has enough power or enough juice to keep pushing. And then they finally, a instance opened up where David Zaslav was like, well, yeah, why don't we have Superman? Why not? We've got a great Superman. In his mind, he hasn't failed at anything. He doesn't have any baggage. He's taken over the company. I'm going to do cool stuff. Why wouldn't you make a Superman movie? And he did. He's going to. And they're going to do something. And whatever it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be great because he is a great Superman. But, you know, when everyone's thinking the thing that Henry Cavill is associated with was never ultimately as successful as it should have been. So we're not going to go further with it, which I think was dumb.
You know what somebody said to me the other day? And I do not do the X director directing X movie questions, but somebody brought this up to me and said, now, think about this. They said, John, listen to me here. Think about this for a second. I know it's going to sound like I'm just throwing out a popular name, but honestly, think about this. Guillermo del Toro doing a Superman.
Oh, dude.
And I thought about that for a second. At first I thought, well, that doesn't really match stylistically. But then I thought about what he did with Blade and how he adapts his own style to fit the material he's doing. And all of a sudden I was like, ooh, how do I write to James Gunn to say, talk to Guillermo del Toro about doing a new
Well, the thing about it,
movie?
if you look at Guillermo del Toro's films, I mean, if you look at the shape of water has the kind of emotional resonance that a Superman movie could use. And it's like, wow, what, a woman falling in love with an amphibious creature? Well, yes, because an amphibious creature is an alien. It's Superman. And the fact that he was able to create that kind of a connection, Guillermo del Toro has the soul of the director that needs to make a Superman movie. And you can see it in Devil's Backbone. You can see it in one of his first movies, Kronos. Now, you might not see exactly what Superman has, but if you're a smart, Kevin Feige would go, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
He would know because he could see and look and go, yeah, well, I don't see Superman in Kronos or Mimic or Blade 2 or Devil's Backbone or Pan's Labyrinth. That's why you're never going to be as successful as me, Kevin Feige is. Because, I think he'd be great to do a Superman movie. He'd knock it out of the park.
Now, I don't think he'd ever do it, to be honest
Probably.
with you, but I
No.
would salivate at the idea.
Yeah, because it's not, the thing about Guillermo del Toro is he likes his monsters more than he likes his Men of Steel.
Yeah, he likes his imagination, but still, something like that, or another director like that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you make of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's comments here that the fact that the old regime of Warner Brothers refused to let Superman be a part of the DCEU for the last couple of years is, quote unquote, inexcusable? I happen to agree with them. What do you guys think about it? What do you think the future Superman is going to be here under James Gunn's new DC universe? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into main topic number 5, shall we? Chris, what is our 5th main topic today?
This comes from Gerald Watts. I've been very confused by the whole situation with Namor. For a long time, it looked like Marvel couldn't do a Namor movie because of the rights with Universal, but then he showed up in Wakanda Forever, and I thought it meant we might finally get a Namor movie of his own. But now I'm hearing that they can only use him the way they use the Hulk. He can be in movies, but he can't have his own movie. Can you explain how this works? Thanks.
All right, Gerald, thanks a lot for saying that in. And you're right. Look, one of the big issues surrounding Marvel and stuff like that has been the issue of the Hulk and the fact that they cannot do a Hulk standalone movie. They can't do one because the rights prevent them to, because if they do a Hulk standalone movie, then Universal gets to be the ones to distribute the film. And Marvel doesn't want to do that. They don't want to make the movie that they don't get to distribute themselves. Now, the Spider-Man situation, that was a unique situation where they made a certain deal for it. So that's a little bit separate. But for a long time, too, a lot of people ask, why haven't they introduced Namor? Well, because they're in the same kind of rights hassle with Universal regarding that character as they are with Hulk. Now, I agree with you. When we finally heard that Namor was going to be in this movie, I was like you, thinking that Marvel paid up. Whatever was Universal was asking for, Marvel paid up, but maybe not. It sounds like they got a little bit of something, but not a little bit of something else. Anyway, the producer of Black Panther Wakanda Forever talked about this situation. This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who wrote the following. During a sit-down with The Wrap, Black Panther Wakanda Forever producer Nate Moore revealed that while Namor can return, but not in a standalone film. According to Marvel Studios' deal with Universal Pictures, Namor can only appear alone in marketing materials as long as it's within a series of posters, and the character cannot appear in a solo MCU movie. Moore compared the situation to the Hulk's, saying that the Black Panther Wakanda Forever antagonist is, quote-unquote, borrowed. So it sounds funny that there are details in those contracts and those licenses that even specify, by the way, you can't have a solo poster of Namor unless that poster is a part of a series of posters. But you can't make like an alternate Wakanda Forever poster where it's just Namor on thing. He can be included in a montage of other characters and stuff like that, and you cannot make a standalone Namor movie. Now, Rob, this goes all the way back to the era when Marvel was not owned by Disney. They were having major financial difficulties. They started selling off licenses to all their characters and a bunch of their characters that they have spent decades now trying to bring back in-house, and there are still some leftover remnants of that. They made big strides by purchasing Fox and getting the X-Men and Fantastic Four back, but other characters like this are still outstanding. Do you think it's going to become problematic that they can't do like a solo Namor movie, at least right now? Or do you think Namor is the type of character that they can just use like Black Widow was used for so many years before they gave her a solo movie, and he can just be a supporting character in a lot of movies? Or do you think they're missing out drastically by not having a solo Namor?
Well, in the case, it's the Universal Sony thing, the way I understand it's very different. Like Sony owns the rights to not just Spider-Man, but the Spider-Verse, lock, stock, and barrel. That's a deal that I don't see Marvel ever extricating Spider-Man from Sony unless something drastic happens. The Universal thing, I think, is a little different. I don't know what they are being paid, but they've got a distribution deal, and it sounds like that's about it. Maybe there's a licensing fee that has to be paid or something.
I think it was a little bit more complicated than just licensing, and I think it sounds to me like maybe they worked out a deal to get it back to the status of like the Hulk. I'm not sure.
I mean, I would imagine that because Universal has no benefit, they should eventually. I think that Marvel's going to buy them out, and I think Universal will sell because it's just getting to the point where okay, they'll get a lump sum payment or something and get back those characters eventually, but not with Spider-Man. But I think they should do it, whatever that is, because I mean, Universal, they're not going to make Marvel movies,
But I mean, here's the thing though, if I'm Universal, right? Let's say you're Marvel and I'm Universal, and I've got these distribution rights to Hulk, Namor, things like that, and I say to you, okay, cool, you can have the distribution rights to Hulk back. Let's stick with Hulk for now. I want $2 billion. Now, if you're Marvel, can you say, is it worth $2 billion for us to make standalone Hulk films? I mean, we can still use them the way we're using. I don't know.
It isn't.
Where does that dollar figure have to be?
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to, if I give a dollar amount, I don't know. Right. I mean, I don't know, having know nothing about it, but I would say, I mean, what is it worth? What is it worth Universal to these characters? whatever they're getting now as opposed to what the buyout would be. Like how many times, because Marvel could just say, nah, we're not going to use these characters anymore. And then Universal's out of luck. I mean, why not sell them, I don't know, $50 million?
Because Universal knows they can get a lot more than that.
I mean, but that's a chunk of change that Marvel, right now, they're not, I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that these two characters, they're already using them. And they've used Hulk a lot. I mean, in a way, if we never saw Hulk again, now they've got She-Hulk.
The way they have Hulk.
Now they've got Scar. I mean, or do they own the Hulk verse? Do they own the rights? I would imagine they don't own the rights.
Or else
to
they
She-Hulk.
could have made a She-Hulk show.
Yeah, or Hulkling or whatever. Yes, right. They couldn't have done it. So maybe they don't need to use the Hulk anymore. And then Universal's like, well, wait, where's our little Hulk stipend? Sorry, we're going to use Jennifer instead.
But I mean, if you're I'm just thinking, if I'm Universal, guess what? It's not costing me anything to have the rights to the Hulk, and maybe you don't want to do anything with him right now, but eventually you will. I'm just going to keep these rights nice and safe on my shelf until you're willing to pay what I want you to pay.
Yep.
I mean, it's a tough situation. Anyway, Chris, you hear this. It sounds like we've got a similar situation with Namor now that we do with Hulk. Listen, I did not love Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but I liked it, and one of the strongest elements of it was Namor. Namor. So
Namor.
I mean, do you think the MCU is okay moving forward without doing solo Namor movies? Because honestly, it's not just his character. You've got the world and kingdom of Talocan. There are stories you can tell there. Is this something they can work out, or can they just continue on in an MCU using him as a secondary character? What do you think?
I think they could definitely continue the course of using him as a secondary character. I would love one-offs of just him and exploring Talocan and everything, because Tennant was, I mean, one of the best things of that film to me. I loved his portrayal of this character. I was so excited to see it. I loved the world building we got in this movie and everything, but I think that also proves that they did a great job showing us that world. And I went, ooh, okay, I want to know more about it, but you can still do it with some other stories in there. Wakanda Forever was a little overinflated for me, right? It was just really, I believe you phrased it as overstuffed. It was the kind of Oreo that I usually like, right? But I don't want that in my movie. I like my food overstuffed and my movie is edited just right. And so I think you can still work with him, have him be there with other characters. And yeah, if you're the owner of the rights, you're just going to keep dangling that carrot for as long as you can to, the people want this, Disney. Come on, come on, come on.
Yeah. Pay up, sucker.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe that's the case. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you think the MCU really needs to be able to have the flexibility to make Namor solo movies? Or can he just be another good character on the roster that they can use in secondary roles moving forward? However you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our sixth and final main topic here today. Chris, what is main topic number 6?
This comes from Iran. I'm not completely sure how long Rian Johnson has been talking about doing another Star Wars project, but it feels like 5 years. I was pretty sure whatever the project was is now dead, but he just did an interview and said that he's still working on it and that he still meets with Lucasfilm about it and that it's possible that he could end up doing a Star Wars Disney Plus series instead. So I have to ask, is another Rian Johnson project actually going to happen? And if so, do you think it'll be a movie or a TV series?
All right, Imran, thanks a lot for writing that in. Now, look, The Last Jedi is a very divisive film, but the very nature of something being divisive means there's a bunch of people who like it and a bunch of people who didn't. I'm one of those people that I fall on the side of that I like The Last Jedi. I mean, look, I have some real issues with it. I've talked about them ad nauseum, but overall, at the end of the day, I like the film. Not top tier Star Wars, but I like the film, and I love Rian Johnson as a filmmaker. Again, we were just talking about the brilliance of Glass Onion. He's terrific. Now, they talked for a long time that he had his own trilogy that they were going to do that had nothing to do with the Skywalker saga or anything. It was going to be a totally different thing. And they talked about that for years, and nothing has ever really come out of it. But he continues to say that, hey, we still talk. As a matter of fact, he, like you just said, he just did another interview where he said that, hey, he and Kathleen Kennedy still talk all the time about what they do and that it could actually be a TV show. This comes to us from Rian Johnson himself, where he said the following: I would do a Star Wars anything. And if I had an idea that I was excited about that worked better as a show than a movie, I'd do it that way. At the moment, we're in between making the next Benoit Blanc or Knives Out movies and thinking about Poker Face. That's an upcoming series he's got coming as well. I keep getting together with Kathy Kennedy and having conversations. Who knows? Making The Last Jedi was the best experience in my life, so I should be so lucky. And again, that comes to us from Rian Johnson. All right. Now, I've already stated that I like The Last Jedi. I think Rian Johnson is a brilliant filmmaker, right? Whether you're looking at something like Looper, obviously Knives Out, Brick, I think he's fantastic. I think this dude is like a rare kind of storyteller. Now, did he knock it out of the park with The Last Jedi? I think most people would say that he didn't knock it out of the park. How badly he did knock it out of the park will depend on from person to person and who you ask. There were definitely some divisive things in there. But listen, as a Rian Johnson fan, and as a big Star Wars fan, and as somebody who liked The Last Jedi, certainly a lot more than The Rise of Skywalker, which was horrible, I got to say this, and I've said this ever since they talked about Rian Johnson doing another project. TV, movie, or holiday special, you cannot let Rian Johnson back into Star Wars. You can't. But John, you just said you really like Rian Johnson. I do. Would I watch another Star Wars movie by Rian Johnson? Hell yes, I'd give it a shot. But the reality is, there is, other than Kathy Kennedy herself, there is no more divisive figure in the world of Star Wars than Rian Johnson. A lot of people did not like his movie, and as a result, inexplicably, because they didn't like a piece of art he made, they don't like him. Whatever, I think that's pathetic, but it is what it is. And Rob, I've said for years on this show, and I still believe today, you can keep talking to Kathy Kennedy all you want. There are two things I believe. One, I don't believe they're actually ever planning on doing another one. I really don't. I think they're still just keeping up a facade. I really do. But even if what he's saying is true, you can't do it, because what's going to happen? The moment you announce a new Rian Johnson Star Wars project, there is going to be a firestorm of discussion online, and none of it is going to be about the new project. It's all going to be about the controversy of Rian Johnson coming back. And unlike what the popular, slogan goes, like any publicity is good publicity, no, it's not. Ask Armie Hammer. Not all publicity is good publicity. It's just not true. And I don't see any other reality that exists in all the multiverse that if tomorrow Lucasfilm announced that they were going to bring back Rian Johnson to do another thing, and as much as I love Rian Johnson, and I'd be down for seeing it, there is no way that the discussion is anything other than the controversy of it. And the attention is going to be drawn away from the project itself. And especially with Bob Iger coming back, I think Bob Iger understands this, and I don't think there's any way he allows this to happen. I don't know, Chris, you hear Rian Johnson's comments. By the way, I'm dying to see this third Benoit Blanc movie.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to Poker Face. I love this guy. I really do. Mm-hmm. Is there a way he could come back to do more Star Wars films? And do you think it's actually going to happen?
I mean, I'm honestly surprised he'd want to, because we've had so many other filmmakers say they don't even want to engage in this fandom.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
The fandom has become so toxic and so, horrible to these different filmmakers on such a personal level that's really interesting to me. Rian Johnson's got thick skin. You got to give him that. Even if you don't like him, you got to give him, he's got really thick skin. I am somebody who liked Last Jedi. I thought it brought up a bunch of really great concepts that then were dismissed in Rise of Skywalker. And I was very sad we didn't see those threads completely get tied up. I think with the right story, he could come back. It's just the fandom is already so against him. I mean, you guys in the chat, a whole bunch of you already are absolutely not. No, I never want to see this again. I mean, do you want to try to make a Star Wars?
I'd spit in his soup.
Yeah. You guys, I know we talk about things on the show too of how we don't like certain things in film or television, or I would have done this differently. And I totally understand that. And I'm guilty of every now and then having that. It should have been like this. It's hard to make movies.
Yeah, it is.
It's really fucking hard. And it's even harder when it is treasured IP like Star Wars. Everything you do is going to be so polarizing. So the fact that he wants to get back in that ring again, honestly, I think that speaks volumes. And I would love to see what he could do. It's
funny. When I talked on the show that I did, one of the shows I did solo, we are, and I include all of us, we've all done this from time to time. There's no one person guilty of this. We've all been guilty of this at some point. But we as fandom turn on people real fast. Mm-hmm. Look at what happened with Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi, Academy Award winner, made Jojo Rabbit, Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows, arguably directed a couple of the best episodes of Mandalorian, made Thor Ragnarok, which is huge success and beloved. But then he made Thor Love and Thunder, that was, including myself, was not a lot of people's favorite. But what's crazy is he only put on one movie that some people didn't like. It was, don't let Taika Waititi anywhere near this stuff ever again. It's like,
Which is ridiculous.
it's like,
Yeah,
what-
the guy's comedic genius. Shut
yeah.
up.
yeah, like, did we suddenly forget that this is the same guy who won an Academy Award for Jojo Rabbit? This is the same guy who made Hunt for the Wilder People? Is this the same guy? Okay, he had a bad day at the office. I mean, we don't write off Steven Spielberg after he made that terrible The Terminal movie, right? Sorry, Ray.
What?
Oh,
So-
no.
Wow.
Oh, there you go.
Fighting
There you
words.
go.
And Thor Love and
That
Thunder.
way to put in that jab. You found it.
Thor Love and Thunder wasn't perceived as terrible by everyone, right? Like, Jonathan, you enjoyed it. When we've talked about that, of how you and I had
I
very
think a
different
lot of people did.
experiences. You know?
But that is what
Sounds
we
like
as
it.
fandom do,
Sounds
right?
like I did.
And I think a lot of people once The Last Jedi came out and they didn't like it, and hey, that's fine. We like or dislike different movies for different reasons. But the amount of people that went, I never want to see anything by Rian Johnson again. It's like, this is the same guy who made Brick. Like what? But that is what we do. Anyway, Rob, I mean, I'm saying there is as a fan of Rian Johnson, there is no way they should bring him back because nothing good will come of this. But I mean, I don't know. He's just got another big success with Glass Onion. Can you see a reality in which he comes back to do more Star Wars?
Well, in a way, here's the thing. I think what people really hate about The Last Jedi the most is what was done to Luke Skywalker.
Which I honestly thought was one of the best things they did in that
And
movie.
here's the thing. He didn't do that. That was something that another filmmaker put him in a position, and Rian Johnson was handed this baton and was like, okay. You know, and if you look at Last Jedi, there's some great set pieces in it. Like in Snoke's throne room or whatever, that battle sequence is amazing with the red Praetorian Guard, and there's some stuff. And I love the fact that at the end of Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker does one of the most Jedi things ever. He takes on Kylo Ren. He's not even there.
Without doing any actual violence.
Without doing any actual violence, the most
Epic.
Jedi shit ever. I loved that. There's a lot of goofy plotting in the movie that I'm not. I even like the Holdo maneuver. I don't care. Say what you want. That was badass in the movie. She's like, well, why don't they have light speed torpedoes and it breaks cannon? Whatever. I don't care. It was awesome. Visually, I'm like in the theater. I was like, my God.
The sound design of that scene, by the
Dude,
way, was also
so good.
really incredible.
Rian Johnson is a great filmmaker. I love Brick. I love Brothers Bloom. I love Looper. I loved his episodes of Breaking Bad. I love the first Knives Out. The guy's a world-class filmmaker. If he did something original outside of the Skywalker saga, and it was an interesting idea, all he has to do is float a fascinating idea. I think there'd be a firestorm, a shitstorm of people on the line, bitching and moaning. Dude, I'm getting people that are bitching and moaning about Andor to me, going, you know what, this amounts to nothing, and this. I'm like, okay, clearly you're not objectively looking at something, which is fine. But I do think that there is a possibility that he could come back with the right whatever it was, whatever he comes up with, because he is a world-class filmmaker. And I would also say to people, everybody that hates The Last Jedi, it made $1.3 billion worldwide.
Yep.
And for as much as you might hate something, there are very few filmmakers in the history of humanity that have made it into the $1 billion club. And he is one of them. He's also a guy that began his indie roots in a movie like Brick. Then he made a kind of a self-indulgent movie I like in Brothers Bloom. So the guy is a filmmaker that could do something interesting. It would be auteurist, certainly. It would be far away from the Skywalker saga, yes, if he came back. But I think that's what he would want. But you know what? Hey, as far as I'm concerned, nothing could be possibly worse than The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and right now, or
I
to
share
be
that
honest,
opinion.
I put that here's my level of bad Star Wars. At the very bottom is the Star Wars Holiday Special. Right above it is The Rise of Skywalker, and right above that is, well, I would say Book of Boba Fett. You know, I mean, I think he could probably give us something that's above that.
By the way, you're talking about like some people complain about Andor. Somebody, one of our viewers sent me this. I'll see if I can bring it up here. His name was Glenn, Are you able to
Is
bring
it
up?
on your Air or?
Is this bleeding
MacBook.
bleeding into?
I lost it. We have to reconnect that MacBook.
Okay, see if you can bring that back up again. We'll talk about that one in just a second. Oh, actually, let me see if I can bring it up here. Because
So your Air.
I want to show you guys this. Where is my? Oh, here we go.
Okay, I got it.
You got the image? I love this. Star Wars Tender. How can you watch it? There's no lightsabers. That to me. So Glenn, who said one of our viewers sent that to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is people who didn't like. They're Gaston. Anyway, whatever. But all art is subjective. You didn't like it or you didn't like it. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Of course not.
anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, as much of a fan as I am as Rian Johnson, I really don't think anything good can come out of him coming back to do it. But maybe Rob's got a point.
But winning cures everything.
Winning cures everything. And if he comes back and delivers the next Andor or the next Breaking Bad Fly episode or whatever in a Star Wars universe, maybe everybody gets over it really quick. Who knows? Question is for you. What do you think about this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there. All right, guys. We are now going to throw it open to you, and we're going to open up the super chats to hear about your thoughts, theories, questions, and opinions. Whatever you guys got that you'd like us to read off and comment on, go ahead and send that in now. We only leave the super chats open for just a couple of minutes, so go ahead and get those in quickly. But before we get to those, we want to take a moment and thank the main sponsor of our show, my mobile service provider, Ryan Reynolds' Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. This holiday season, the best deal in wireless can only be found at Mint Mobile. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months free. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home with eSIM while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Guys, you know I've been using Mint Mobile long before this holiday deal, and I have to say, it is the perfect time to switch. Since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been spending 1/3 of what I used to spend on my mobile service with the other big name company. And with this buy 3 months, get 3 months free, not only is it a great choice for you, but it makes great gifts for the people you love. Mint Mobile's best offer of the year is here. By going online only and with eSIM and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes those significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. Or if you need a new device, for a limited time, get 6 months of free service when you buy a selected device and plan. So guys, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for saving me tons of money, giving me a great mobile service, and for being a sponsor of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, it is now time for us to go to your live questions. So, Chris, what do we got there in the super chats?
From Anubis Genocide, the Modal Nodes, the Max Rebo Band, or the Ferrex Marching Band? Which takes the title of Best Star Wars Band? Ooh,
Max Rebo.
I love Max Rebo.
But I love that Andor funeral march. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm so glad that you pointed out, Rob, because I was going to say it myself. I mean, it was so Les Mis.
So, yeah.
It was great. I would listen to those dope beats in my car. Yeah, I mean, I would listen to that all day. Put a little techno beat underneath it.
Phil Dan, man, and the Modal Nodes. You guys, they're a hard working jazz band. They clearly don't have the economic backing that Cy Snoodles, Max Rebo do. They're not playing for Jabba the Hutt. They're playing in some shithole bar in Mos Eisley, man. Give those guys a break.
Well, everyone goes through there, so they're fine. They're getting exposure.
Only certain kinds of people that the bartender, lets in.
Scum and villainy.
That's right. That's all they get to
If I
play
had to
for.
hear Jedi, I know this. If I ever had to hear Jedi Rocks one more time, I think I can gouge out my ears.
Who has ever dissed the Cantina band music?
Never.
Never gonna happen. They're the Star Wars band. They're the goats.
All right, what's next?
From Jai CSC, have you ever watched a movie then almost immediately sat down and watched that same movie again, less than an hour later, uninterrupted, no skipping?
Yeah, I've done it I've done it in theaters. I've literally gone into a theater a couple of times. I know the first time I watched Thor. The first time I watched Thor at a regular screening. Kenneth Branagh, I literally walked in, watched it, went out, bought more tickets, went to the next one. It wasn't like less than an hour. I think it was about 2 hours later. Went right back in, watched it again. And yeah, that has happened. I did it with the holiday special this week. Watched it, Now I had to wait a couple of hours for Ann to come home and blah blah. Watch it and then just waited patiently for Ann to be ready and then watch it immediately again. So there have been those. I love it when I come across a movie that makes me want to do that. All right, what's next?
I did that with Swingers.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I
Yeah.
saw Star Trek 4 four times opening day.
Oh my gosh. Sam
Trek
Fisher.
Gracie's pregnant.
Sam Fisher. Weird question, but should I watch 1883 before I watch Yellowstone? And will characters from 1883 be appearing in 1923?
I don't think that they are. And I would say watch Yellowstone first. I think it'll give you a better appreciation for 1883. Clearly, since 1883 came later, it's not like you have to watch 1883 and get it in order to understand Yellowstone. So I would say watch Yellowstone first. All right, what's next?
From the Swifties, what has 27 actors, 3 settings, 2 writers, and 1 plot? 671 Hallmark movies.
Yep.
Nailed it.
That was pretty much, that's pretty much true. Actually, let me see if I can get this here. I'm not sure if I can. Yeah, so not quite yet, but get ready to bring up my screen here in just a second, Jonathan, once I find this thing. Somebody made this great image of, where did it go? There it is. Let's see if you can bring it up here. These are all the different Hallmark Christmas movies.
Actually, I sent that to you.
Are you the one who sent
Yeah.
that to me?
Yeah.
These are all the Hallmark Christmas movies. They're the same fucking poster.
They're all snowflakes. Each one is exquisitely different.
Oh my God.
They sometimes own apple cider farms. Sometimes they own a coffee shop.
In one, she moved to the big city to be a lawyer. In
Yeah.
another one, she moved to the big city to be a banker.
Exactly.
Very different.
Sometimes they have amnesia. It's wild.
So good. Rob, you looked flabbergasted.
I look at this and I'm like, why doesn't somebody make the Christmas movie where Colin Frizzle from Love Actually? Where is he now? Where's Colin? Where's Colin now?
We were watching that movie the other night. We were like, we want it 10 years later so we can see who failed.
Yeah, I don't think Colin failed, man. I think he found his fortune. I think he became a tech bro.
Oh.
And then he became a tech magnet, probably,
Colin Frizzle's in crypto big time.
All right.
Frizzle.
He founded FTX. All right, what's next?
No, he didn't.
I think we know where Amazon's putting their money, though. They're going to make 671 more of these.
Yeah.
Damn right they are. All right, what's next?
From Suthius, who sends us a $20 super chat. Thank you, Suthius.
Thank you, Suthius.
Last week, I mentioned Chicago Med. You know who else is great? Oliver effing Platt.
I love him.
He's chief psychiatrist and a father and will shut down other doctors for making unethical decisions just by using his dad voice. Enough. Phew.
I'll tell you what, I do not watch Chicago Med, but I almost did. I almost started just when I heard that Oliver Platt was going to be on there. I love Oliver Platt.
I do
and
too.
he has had a tragically limited career. I mean, by the way, the Betty White movie, what's the one about the giant alligator? The Betty White movie?
Lyle.
No, it ain't Lyle Crocodile.
Alligator? The one that John's-
No, it was the name of the city where the Olympics was held. It was called, guys in the live chat, help me out. What was it? Lake Placid. Thank you,
right,
Ron H.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
Lake Placid, by the way, if you haven't seen Lake
I like
Placid,
Lake Placid.
Same thing, man.
Lake Placid is really fun. So you should watch Lake Placid. But where I first discovered as a viewer, Oliver Platt was in The Three Musketeers. And he played Porthos, I believe. And he played off of Charlie Sheen and 24 Boy, good Canadian kid, Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland, not Donald, that's his dad. He played the third guy off of those two so brilliantly. It's still one of my favorite lines of that era was, "Come, D'Artagnan, we're going to save the king." I don't know, just the way he said, I loved his character in that. Oliver Platt is awesome. I wish he was in more stuff. All right, what's next?
From Rob McDonald, Variety has ranked Spielberg's best movies of the 21st century. West Side Story was ranked number 8, and The Terminal was ranked number 7?
What? Above West Side Story?
In what world? In what world?
Okay, I'm going to sit here and say it right now. Obviously, it's all subjective, so take this with a grain of salt. Variety doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Did they put is like the Duel number 1?
No, Duel's not 21st century.
What the hell are they talking about? They don't know.
Oh, number 7's pretty bad for 21st century.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I misread
that's
that.
kinda low, but it's on there, baby.
Right? What's next?
My mind went to all time. I'm like, that's interesting.
From Bobby Jackson.
I wrote it.
Hi, John. Just wanted to. I like that you wrote it and you didn't put it at number 1.
I have to be discreet about it, or else people will know.
from Bobby Jackson. Hi, John. Just wanted to let you know that The Fablemans is playing relatively near you at the AMC Ontario Mills.
Yeah, I mentioned that I hadn't seen it yet because the closest it was to me was like an hour and a half away, so I still haven't seen it. But then I got a few messages from people saying it's actually playing at the AMC in Ontario Mills, which is only about 30 minutes away. So I am going to go see it post haste because I'm
Take a field trip.
going to be going up there to go see that. All right, what's next?
From Bobby Jack. Oh, we just did that one. From Dumbrodor. Spent $2,200 on Black Friday weekend, $1,400 plus spent on physical media, and going to Best Buy, Target, and Walmart. I noticed there was a lot less emphasis on physical media than in 2021 and certainly 2020.
Well, you gotta rub it in.
That's
Keep noticing
wild.
that every year.
Yeah, but the one thing I know for sure, that $1,400, great investment. The value of those are only going to go up. I'm kidding. It's not. But
Well, the market has been dwindling between 20 to 25% every year.
year over year,
And by the way, do you know what is the most popular physical media format in the world now?
Reel to reel.
Laser discs.
DVD.
Oh.
yeah.
DVD are still the biggest selling, even in disc.
Ah, man.
DVD
But I
format.
remember last year, I can't remember if you were with us, Ray. We wandered into Best Buy during Black Friday last year. And there were still last year several shelves of the new DVDs and Blu-rays and things like that. Ann and I went this Friday. There was one shelf.
Yep.
One
But you
shelf.
know, let it become a boutique niche thing. I mean, people like George Feltenstein at Warner Archive and everybody at Second Sight and Kino and Criterion and 101 Films and 88 Films and Shout Factory. They're all doing the Lord's work, John.
All right, what's next?
From Jay King. From Blake62. Saw the trailer for 1923 last night. My goodness, get this into my eyeballs ASAP. Ford, Mirren, Braun of the Blackwater. This looks amazing. I was excited to see Braun in there.
I was too.
Who is Braun of the Blackwater?
That's the character from Game of Thrones.
Jamie Lannister's good friend.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Who hung
didn't-
out with Tyrion.
That was him.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that. By the way, James Bond. Timothy Dalton is in that.
Oh,
Yep.
he looks great.
I had
Friggin' love him.
I had no idea Timothy Dalton was going to be in this, and I'm like, okay, game on. This is going to be so good. This show is going to be so great. I cannot wait.
I want the whole valley.
All right, what's next?
Jay King. Did any of you see Banshees of Inisherin yet? I thought it was fecking great. The most Irish movie I've ever seen. Also, John, have you seen Tar yet? Kate Blanchett was phenomenal, and that ending. I still
Finally
haven't
did
seen
see
it.
Banshees of Inisherin. Loved it. We'll talk a lot about that probably as we get a little bit closer to the end of the year and we get into some of our predicting our Oscar favorites and things like that. We'll go more into it at that point. It was heavier than I thought it would be. Like you can tell from the trailer, there is some heaviness, but I think the trailer presented it as a little bit lighter than what it ended up being. Still a brilliant movie. Still haven't seen Tar though, but Tar is now available on streaming.
Yep.
So I'm going to be, Ann and I are planning on watching it. We've got it written on our blackboard in our theater room of movies we got to watch next. So Tar is up there, but yeah, Banshees of Inisherin was freaking brilliant. I loved it.
Mark McDonough's stuff is great.
Oh, he's so good.
Logan was in Cripple of Inishman.
Really? Did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah, when he was back doing more stage production stuff.
That's amazing.
Killed it.
All right, what's next?
From, Debas Magov Carl. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. Not if. I know I did. Over under
Debis
70.
Magov.
Thank you, Rob.
Debis Magov.
Over under 70%. Rocky is killed off in Creed 3.
Under.
I honestly, now I do not know this. This is not a fact. I don't think they even mention Rocky in it.
Yeah.
I think there might be one passing reference to something that happened in a previous movie or something, but honestly, I just think it's going to be when it comes to Rocky. I think they're just not going to touch it. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you might be right. I mean, I find, look, based on the trailer, I think the story is really compelling. God,
It looks good.
when you grew up with some kid went to prison, it seems like it works totally well. There's no reason. I mean, you don't have to bring up everything that ever happened in your life every time you have something happen to you.
You do.
Yeah, I honestly don't think they're going to talk about what was the fate of Rocky. I don't think they will. By the way, again, I haven't seen the movie. I've not heard anybody tell me that. That's just pure speculation.
I agree.
Maybe they do, but we'll see. All right, what's next?
From Itzante, sending in a $50 super chat. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, man.
How do you think the Netflix paying customers would feel if all the good Netflix movies ended up in theaters for longer periods and not on streaming first? I would kind of feel slighted. Not enough to cancel, but still wouldn't feel great about it.
Why?
They're not just movies, though.
What-
They're series
I mean,
on Netflix.
but why? Why would you? What?
You will still see
I
it.
honestly don't understand that philosophy at all. Why would you feel slighted? If anything, these movies are going to get put into theaters, gain a huge following. Hopefully, that's the hope. Get a big following, get a lot of recognition, a lot more people hear about it, and then it's going to get its exclusive home on Netflix after it's done its theatrical run. And you, as a Netflix subscriber, are going to be the only ones that can watch it once it goes onto home streaming. I've never understood this feeling like, if I can't have something, I don't want anybody to have it. I've never understood, like, the whole philosophy of people going, well, people who go to Comic-Con shouldn't get to see these trailers if I don't get to see them online too. It's like, well, wait a minute. If Comic-Con wasn't happening, the trailers still wouldn't be released online today. So you're actually, Rob getting to go to Comic-Con and seeing the new whatever trailer didn't actually take anything away from you. So why are we crying that, why did those people get, it reminds me of a 4-year-old child going, why did she get them M&Ms and I didn't? Well, look, I would get this philosophy if somebody getting something meant that you weren't getting it. I would understand that. Like, if Disney would have released X trailer to the world, if they didn't play it at Comic-Con, okay, then I would get it. But that's not the case. They weren't about to release it today anyway, but there were just some people at Comic-Con that got something special. Well, if they get, nobody should get anything special if I don't. And here's the thing. If you're a Netflix subscriber, it's not like they're putting it in theaters instead of putting it on Netflix.
Right.
You're still going to get it on Netflix exclusively once it goes to streaming. So I would honestly say, why would you feel slighted? If anything, this will bring more attention to the film, get bigger buzz going for it, and then when it lands on streaming, you're the exclusive home.
Plus, how many people know when an exclusive Netflix movie drops? With 100 movies last year, nobody knows. So there's
Unless
nobody
it's
waiting.
The Rock with Red Notice or something, it's nobody.
I mean, unless it was like the next Star Wars movie or the next Marvel movie that exclusively was dropping on Netflix, why would anybody care?
Come on, we're there for Somebody Feed Phil and Great British Baking Show.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it.
You're not
Yeah.
wrong, though. And the Great
Gosh,
British
those are good.
Baking Show holiday special, and now there's the drink master drink people, and bring it
This is
on.
what I would challenge somebody. And by the way, I think it's a great question you raised because it's a valuable topic to talk about. But I would challenge and say this. Last year, according to IndieWire, Netflix put out over 100 original films. Name 7 of them. Bet you can't. And that kind of proves the point that why are we being slighted if they decided to take some of those and put them in theater first?
And a lot of them kind of look interchangeable.
Yes,
Not
they
just their
do.
Christmas movies, but they're genre movies. They're romantic comedies. They're money heist pictures. Whatever they're making, they have a type of film that they make over and over again.
All right. What's next?
From Ron H, 1 of 2. Episode 958 of my One Piece journey.
Oh, boy.
This anime is still fantastic. The crew aids time travelers, saves polluted samurai land from an evil shogun and his dragon/sea emperor partner who teams up with another sea emperor as the government warlord system is abolished, changing the balance of world power. All that, and the captain's dead then alive brother may be dead again.
I got to say, the more people write in and give me descriptions of One Piece, the less interested I am in watching.
I mean, I honestly tuned out. I don't even know what you read.
All
like,
your
it's
hopes and dreams.
Is that from the show?
Yeah, it's their theme song the first season. It's great.
This is definitely a show I am never going to watch. And the more people
Oh,
write in, tell me
you'd
what
hate
happens.
it so much.
Would I?
It animes so hard in a way that
So
is
hard.
not of the John Campea persuasion.
I get it. Where's my space battleship Yamato? Where's Starboard?
Well, if you would like, I could loan you all this. I could loan you
boy.
$21.99, $22.02, and $22.05 if you'd like.
I'm good. All right, what's next?
Total of 16 discs.
I mean, new live action, Hollywood made space battleship Yamato, Star Blazers.
There is a live action Star Blazers. I can also loan that
no,
to
that's
you.
garbage. That thing was garbage. That Asian one they did was terrible. All right, what's next?
From Double McShave, ranking the decades of film in the last century. 1, 1970s. 2, 1990s. 3, 1980s. 4, 2000s. 5, 1960s. 6, 1940s. 7, 2010s. 8, 1930s. 9, 1950s. 10, 1920s.
Well, there you go.
I never rank
Stubble, and I know Stubble, your ranking for the 1940s is way too low.
Oh.
Way too low.
All right, what's next?
From Bobby Jackson again. With the popularity of the Guardian special, should we be on the lookout for a Peacemaker Christmas special next year?
I don't think so. I don't think that's something that Warner Brothers is going to get into with HBO. They certainly don't want to look like they're copying Marvel. And there's no need. He gets a series. He gets like literally series that is exclusive on HBO. You know, for Guardians of the Galaxy, they're not going to be exclusive for Disney Plus unless they do these little specials. So it's a different circumstance.
Although I could see a Peacemaker President's Day special.
Oh, they'd do a Wonderful Life kind of episode too.
I think they could do a good one.
God, I cannot wait for Peacemaker to come back. All right, what's next?
From Bruce Wayne Brady. That's a good name. Hey, Rob,
Wait,
did you
wait.
get the new
I got you.
die-cast war machine from Hot Toys? Pretty sweet.
I got Iron Patriot, not the war. You know why? Because I already have
But
diecast.
if it's diecast, isn't that Sideshow or does Hot Toys do
No,
diecast?
Hot Toys does the diecast Iron Man armor.
Got it, okay.
I did not get, because I already have the diecast War Machine from not from Endgame, but from from Civil War maybe. So I got the Iron Patriot, which is dope.
All right, what's next?
From In My Humble Opinion Reviews, Amazon improved AMC stock price. Well, we know who to truly thank, Adam Aaron.
You're so right. Right now, somewhere, Adam Aaron is crafting a social media post saying, you know, I've worked really hard to give us that one day thing. But like, again, I'm not going to go into the whole story again. Adam Aaron. What a...
You love him.
He has a
Sure,
nickname. We heard it.
He's trying to
We
figure out
heard it
ways
at,
to take
CinemaCon.
credit.
What was it?
Dwayne the Rock Johnson said his nickname.
Yeah, what was it again?
I have no
It was
idea.
like the Beast or something. The some like
Beast.
Yeah.
Something undeserved.
I was sitting like right next to John, and I could see from the back of his ears were getting red like Superman.
It's like, God, the shit basket. Anyway, but I'm sure he's trying to take credit for the bump. That was that's the comment of the day, by the way, right there. All right, what's next?
From Dumbro Doridan again. I realized that both Man of Steel and R.I.P.D. came out in 2013, and only one got a second movie that just came out this year.
Oh my God, that's replaced by the new best comment of the week. That's right, because R.I.P.D. 2, everybody. That's right, 2 movies came out the same year, R.I.P.D., Man of Steel, and one of them got a sequel, and it wasn't Man of Steel.
Are we doing an open
R.I.P.D..
spoiler review for our R.I.P.?
Yeah, that should be the next movie club.
There you
'cause,
go.
that should be our next movie club right there. All right, what's next?
From CJ Rebirth, Chris, hi. You continue to amaze me. I saw on Battlegirl Paradox you worked with the GOAT Chris Ayers, who also voiced Lord Frieza. Yeah. Chris directed me several times. He was the nicest guy. He was so talented. He was so wonderful. And thank you for watching Battlegirl Paradox. That's great. It's one of the anime I've been in.
Tell me more. What is this Battlegirls
what is it?
Paradox?
It's a time traveling anime with a whole bunch of female warriors in it. Lots of fan service. It's a fun one.
All right.
Yeah, and Chris was our director, and he was truly the GOAT. He was amazing.
All right, what's next?
From Vixter 5001, Taika Waititi and Daniel Craig vodka ad is fabulous.
Yes, it is.
It's incredible.
So fun.
I mean, something so out of the park for Daniel Craig, and I couldn't stop watching it. I'm like, this is great.
I mean, you could put the Christopher Walken weapon of choice video
Yes!
right next to the Daniel Craig.
Yes.
if you
video
haven't seen it, guys,
on a
jump
loop.
on YouTube and look for it. It's really, really
I read
great.
a really great article too that was talking about how it's so smart of Daniel Craig just doing these things too of I'm more than Bond.
Yeah.
Let me just get you used to that in
Yeah.
some weird different ways. And love
He
it.
started kind of with Logan Lucky,
Oh yeah,
you know,
God, I
Yeah.
loved his character.
Benoit
in Logan
Blanc, and
Lucky.
then I love it.
That's a really good underrated movie overall. Is Logan?
It
Lucky.
is.
Yeah, it's really good.
I
All
saw it
right,
in the theater too.
what's next?
From Fernando Rodriguez. My super chats never show up. Test.
Well,
4.
there we go. All right, what's
Hey, we
next?
did it.
Look no further, Fran.
From Rob McDonald, I'd love to see what Del Toro's Brainiac looks like.
Scary.
Oh, you know he would go
Yeah.
really into that. God, he would go into that. All right, what's next?
From Joseph SFL, James Gunn should complete DC Marvel crossover event next year with the Suicide Squad holiday special on HBO Max featuring Kevin Bacon.
I mean, that's one way to do it.
There you go.
But yeah, I think Marvel would probably have an issue with that. You got to remember, like James Gunn and Kevin Feige are buddies. I mean, they communicate all the time. James Gunn says the very first person that he called to tell about his new role as heading up DC was Kevin Feige. He said he was the first guy he called.
Can you imagine if they did a 2-part holiday special? that started on Disney Plus and then moved over to HBO
Okay,
Max?
I will say this. I have always said that you can't do a DC Marvel crossover. It would be a bumblefuck cluster fire that it would be just a total mess. That said, in a questionable canon, so not really canon kind of thing, that it limited risk, limited investment, big potential for fun. That's something, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but that is something that I could see happening. Part 1 on Disney Plus, part 2 on HBO.
Across company, and you have a handoff. You have 2 of the characters somehow in the multiverse, because the multiverse saga will not be over yet. And how long, I bet you that Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special was filmed. I have no idea how long it took to shoot it. It didn't look like it was shot over many days.
I bet you Chris Pratt was on set for 2 days.
At least. I mean, maybe, if that. If you could do that handoff, how great. I mean, because each company would get their own thing and everybody would have to watch both. So doing that kind of a handoff, I mean, that would be the kind of the Marvel and DC present.
Oh my God. If you do a live action, Santa Claus comes and tells the heroes of the world of 2 different universes, even the Marvel characters, DC characters, that the heat miser has returned and is threatening Christmas, and he needs their help to go and battle the heat miser and his little sing-along group. He's Mr. Heat Miser. He's Mr. Sun. Like, they got to battle him. And again, your idea, part 1 on Disney Plus, part 2 on HBO Max. And again, not canon. That could be fun.
Or
Or
you find out that there is a multiverse where Santa is real. And
What do you mean? Where he's real?
No, like a
Multiverse.
real, like all of but the actual, and all we have is the myth that has come from somewhere else. But there's an actual Santa, a real Santa, and somehow it crosses over.
Stop ruining Christmas, Rob.
Next, you're going to tell me the Tooth Fairy is fake.
He looks just like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
We only have the legend of Santa.
All right, what's next?
The legend.
My heart's broken. Harv's K. Films Rob does not own on Blu-ray. 1981 Zorro the Gay Blade with George Hamilton in a dual role as Don Diego Vega and his twin Ramon. I recall liking this as a kid without getting the not-so-subtext.
Harv's K, you're right, but I did see that movie in the theater when it originally came out, along with movies like The Legend of the Lone Ranger starring Clinton Spilsbury as the Lone Ranger.
Who can forget? Do you have the hot toy figure of that?
No.
The
they don't
3
make
different
one.
versions of it.
Yeah, they don't.
All right,
No.
what's next?
Pillsbury
From
Doughboy.
Joe Adonis T. Hello, guys. So excited to watch for One Night Only Willow, and followed by a Q&A with the director and cast, plus a new look at the upcoming show. It's playing at El Capitan there in LA also.
Yeah, I heard that they were doing that.
Yep.
And listen, I got to tell you, I was not excited about Willow. I don't know if I even today would classify me as being excited for it. But that last trailer that came out certainly made me interested. And I mean, who doesn't love Warwick Davis? Come on. So I'm at least curious about it now.
And our friend Cliff did point out that Joanna Whaley is in that trailer.
That's right, because we were talking about
Yeah.
that, and I totally missed that. I
Me
totally
too.
did. All right, what's next?
From Gabriel, do you guys think the MCU will ever reset?
Yes. If the question ever has the word could or the word ever in it, the answer is always yes. So yes, it will someday. How soon? That's the bigger question. All right, what's next?
From Jin the Jedi, did you guys see the viral fan tweet for an original Black Panther prequel concept? Dare I say, the single most interesting thing to come from fandom? I'm not aware of this.
Like ever? In fandom, all fandom
History
forever?
of ever.
But have you seen what it is he's
No,
talking
I
about?
don't know what he's talking
Yeah, unfortunately, Jin, we have no idea what we're talking about, so we can't really comment on it because we don't know. But I mean, hey, listen, there's a lot of good ideas that come from fandom. Very rarely should they ever be used, but sometimes there's some really cool stuff. Like DC and Marvel superheroes teaming up with Santa Claus to fight the heat miser.
50 Shades of Grey.
Why is everybody taking crazy pills? All right. Yeah, and 50 Shades of Grey, which is true. All right, what's next?
From Al Renshaw, Ben and Justin have got to be top 3 songwriters in Hollywood right now. From La La Land, Greatest Showman, Dear Evan Hansen, and Spirited, they have not missed and have delivered great music.
You're not wrong. I
Yeah.
mean, La La Land, the music in La La Land is fantastic.
Great.
It's really great. Greatest Showman, I might say, is the best musical ever. I mean,
love
as
it
far
so
as just
much.
the songs in it, I can listen to each and every individual song on the Greatest Showman soundtrack. And by the way, one of the greatest YouTube videos of all time. I know I've mentioned it before, but if you want to get emotional and stirred and actually feel the power of music, look online for YouTube of Hugh Jackman, From Now On,
Table read.
Table read, yeah. Where a quick synopsis of this, they were trying to get the movie greenlit, and they had arranged for all the big Fox executives to come into town and sit down there and hear them do basically a full table read with singing the songs. And 2 days before, Hugh Jackman had to have a surgery to remove a cancerous growth from his nose, and he was told, don't sing. You can't sing. So Hugh Jackman's like, okay, I'll just stand there with the rest of the cast and move like I'm going to move and say some of the words that I'd be saying. But as they started playing the song, they've got somebody with a camera phone recording this. As they started playing the song, and they had another guy standing in for Hugh Jackman.
Jeremy Jordan of Broadway.
Right, to actually do the singing, who's amazing, by the way. You could tell he was getting moved. And he said, fuck it. And he started singing along with it. And as they get through the whole thing, and From Now On, by the way, is my favorite song from that movie. All of a sudden, everybody starts singing. And the energy of it, all the people in the room start standing and moving and dancing. And Hugh Jackman is belting this thing out. It is one of the most moving, fantastic YouTube videos I've ever seen. If you get a chance, jump on YouTube, search for it, watch it. You won't regret that you did. All right, what's next?
From Devin Lita. Neon Demon 2, anyone? I still can't get over the eyeball at the end.
That's don't say it. That's the two acting girls, the sister. She was in Super 8.
Elle Fanning.
Elle Fanning, yes, Dakota Fanning's sister, Elle Fanning. Yes, yeah, I'd be down for that. I really liked that first one.
I went to high school with the writer of that, Mary Laws.
Really?
Incredibly gifted writer.
Well,
incredibly gifted actor.
That was a well-written
over
movie.
here.
That was a really good script on that one. All right, what's next?
From Djovi. If Netflix does Stranger Things season 5 like they did 4, I think seeing the final 2 episodes in theaters would bring in big money for them. Oh, I would pay to go do that.
Could be. I also think you're going to see, now nobody's told me this is speculation. I think the next season of Stranger Things, whereas the last one was broken into 2, they might break it into 3 or 4. I don't think they're going to go episodic with it purely, but I think they might do what they did with Arcane, like 4 3-episode chunks or something like that, because they saw how long that kept Stranger Things in the talking cycle. Because if they just dropped it all once, we would have talked about it for a week and then it'd be gone. But because they had that big break in between, that's all everybody talked about for a couple of months with Stranger Things. I think they're going to do the same thing there. All right, what's next?
From Purple Funk, excuse me. Hi, crew. With Amazon's movie production announcement, how soon do you think we'll see Amazon buy old shopping malls with theaters attached?
That'd be awesome. Still like the 80s decor.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of talk that's always gone on about why doesn't Disney buy a movie theater chain? Why doesn't Paramount buy a movie theater? The reason being is because as the studios, they know the exhibitors get screwed. And they know it is a razor thin margin business to be in, and that the movie theater running it they have it rough, and they don't want any part of it, because they know how expensive and difficult it is to run those chains. And hey, they're more than happy to just take money from the theaters rather than be the ones doing it. So I think you're going to see them own novelty theaters. I think Netflix bought a couple of just to be novelty theaters that we have this one. Disney, of course, owns the El Capitan. I think you're going to see that. But as far as anybody owning any kind of a wider presence with movie theaters, I don't think that's a business they want to be in. And I don't blame them. It's a rough one. And is that it?
That's it.
All right, guys, and that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those super chats. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come back and join us again tomorrow for the next episode of the John Campea Show. Also, a little bit later today at 3 o'clock Los Angeles time, we're going to have Open Mic, The Weekly Hero. I've got
Thanks
it right
a
in front
lot.
of me. Just forgot about it. The Weekly Hero, of course, is now live. We used to do it pre-recorded, but it is now live. We missed last week because Chris wasn't here.
I had to go check on my dad.
It returns this week at 3 p.m. Los Angeles time. That's 6 p.m. New York time. Make sure you guys come back and join Chris Carr and Robert Meyer Burnett for The Weekly Hero. And guys, that'll do it for us for now. So for everybody in the room, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, Chris Carr, having been back there joining you guys in live chat, Ray Ora, Jonathan Voico, and of course, Taylor. Thank you guys for being here as well. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.